What's up, everybody? My name's Indy, and the gentleman next to me, of course, as always, is I'm supposed to be on this side. There we go. Is Jay Powell from Powell Group Consulting, and welcome to Indie Game Business. And today we've got the infamous Mr. Z.
Infamous, yes.
Infamous hi. Mr. Z, and we're talking about publishing your indie game and also your mental health, and that's. Those two things together or apart or separate or both?
Well, I think they go hand in hand on many days. I'm just shocked that you can move the people around on StreamYard. I had no idea you could even do that. And you're giving me whiplash here. So, Leo, welcome to the show. We do have a lot to talk about, and we're going to try to keep it in an hour this time instead of like last week. But tell us how you originally got into the industry, and then walk us through your career up till today.
Blimey, okay. I've been in the industry since 1996. I'm not sure it was a planned thing. I went to university in 1990 to 1994, which also coincided with sort of the rave scene sort of blowing up in the UK, so music was a big part. I kind of left university and kind of messed around, lots of music-y sort of stuff for 2 years, and then decided I needed a real job and found a job at a software company in Watford called Fast Track. And this was in 96, and the first product that I worked on was gardening design software, which is really riveting, but it was really good, innovative at the time. But after a couple of months, my boss at the time, Judy Turner, pops up on a Friday afternoon and gives me a gold disc. Back in those days, we used to have masters on gold discs, and written on it in red pen was Dance Machine. And she goes, "Oh yeah, I picked this up at CES. Does anyone want to try it?" So I thought, yeah, I'll give it a go. So I took it home for the weekend, plugged it into my machine, and it was basically a really simple to use dance music sequencer. So after literally 72 hours of non-stop using it, came back on the Monday morning and said, "Yeah, we've got to sign it." So we literally signed it. It became known as Dance DJ after that, and went to #1 and spawned 100 or 1,000 probably careers in music. And the next 3 years was based on sort of blowing up music production for the masses. We targeted gamers and we targeted clubbers. So all the 4 years of clubbing, all the 6 years of clubbing kind of came into use, all that sort of learning.
It was market research.
It was good training, good market research, and it was who we marketed to, right? So and it worked. But then I realized I didn't really know enough about marketing, and I've kind of blagged my way up until this point. So I kind of went back to university and did a kind of post-grad thing in marketing just to top up my knowledge, which was useful. I would recommend studying and learning, which is a good thing. But then after that, so that was 96 to just under to 99, and then I worked for a German company called CDV Software. And our first game was Sudden Strike, and it went to #2 in the charts. It was an RTS, it was an amazing RTS, really fast-paced, 1,000 units sort of on screen at any one time. Really, really good. That went to #2 in the charts. So my first proper game went to #2, and then my second game was Cossacks, and that kind of went to #1. And then after that, I thought I was the Don because we'd done all these amazing things. And yeah, really just kind of carried on publishing. I was product manager, marketing manager, and then kind of moved into that direction first. And then in 2003, after sort of launching quite a few titles for CDV, I figured I know best. Forget everyone else. I know more than everybody else, and set up my own company called Digital Jesters, which ran between 2003 2005, and it was a PC publisher mainly. Meteoric rise up, meteoric rise, crash down. Knew a lot about my job, knew a lot about marketing, knew a lot about sales, knew a lot about everything, but knew absolutely fuck all about business. And when you run a business, it's really important that you know about business because, so we did amazing things, to be honest, in a short space of time, but we just needed someone who actually knew what the fuck they were doing on that side. So, but it was an amazing experience, but to be honest, if anyone's been involved in a company that's gone bust, you kind of get tarnished a little bit. And I got tarnished a little bit. My career my reputation was a bit battered. Tried to repair it for 2-3 years, but the investors brought in investors, which is sometimes good and sometimes bad. But bad investors are the ones that steal money rather than put money in. So had a couple of years of basically investors stealing money from everything we were trying to do. And in 2008, just said, fuck this, walked away from literally everything they owed me, and they owed me hundreds of £1,000s. And brought 3 amazing sort of colleagues who are now kind of mates and part of Wired with me, and said, we're going to set up a new company. I don't know what we're going to do, but we're going to do something. And basically, I kind of sent an email out to a whole bunch of people saying, yeah, I'm taking a break, and you'll find me on a beach in Thailand, because I needed a few months out. And I got about 2 days away before I got an email from Pelle Lundberg, who was at Game Out at the time, saying, I've got an idea, would you like to meet? So met up with him, and he wanted a whole bunch of sort of PS2 games made, etc., etc. So I went back to the 3 lads and said, lads, do you want to come? And we set up a new company. So they did. And that was 15 years ago. That was 15th of May 2008, and Wired was born. And we've been growing since. So I don't know if you can see, but I've got a razor blade as a logo, which I don't know, you're all sort of the wrong way around. And that was kind of it as a bit of a reaction to being the bad man of the industry, and I was kind of protected of our little group. So the razor blade was kind of, anyone comes close, I'm going to cut you. So that was kind of that was the real reason for the razor blade. But for anyone else, we were a cutting edge production house. So
nice, yes.
As you know, you got to protect your own. We've been through a really bad patch, and it's amazing how people that you've worked with for quite a few years kind of turn their back on you. And whilst I did not know much about business fundamentally, it wasn't that I did anything wrong. It was just didn't know what I was doing. But anyway, took that on the chin, kind of stayed going out to different shows and just kept on being the face and pushing and pushing and pushing. And with Wired, the mentality from day one was, hey, we've got an opportunity here, me personally, and we're going to double down. We're going to double down and work 10 times harder than anyone else. We're going to put in more hours, more effort. We're going to look after everyone's money. Just everything about the ethos and the building blocks, the foundations of Wired were built on making sure we do the right thing, making sure no one's got even one bad word to say about us, and just making sure that we make good with everyone that we work with. So that was kind of part of the DNA from day one. And I guess the journey of Wired, first part. So it's basically Pelle from Game Outlet. When we started, we started on the same day as Nordic Games Publishing started, which is now THQ Nordic, etc., etc. So we were their production house for the first 4 or 5 years. So we made all their games, did all their marketing assets, just basically prepared everything for market, and they did all the selling. Had a whole bunch of successes with We Sing and various other sort of games that did pretty well. And then after that, they kind of took on a different route, as you say, by buying THQ assets and Joe Wood, and went off down a different direction. We stayed in making games for other people for a 2-3 year period. But really, my passion is publishing. And as soon as we can afford any money, we were kind of screwing it away and just kind of invested in our first title and then our second title, whilst doing a little bit of work for hire. And this is probably around 2012, 2013. But eventually, sort of the transition happened that we became a full-on indie publisher. But because we'd learnt an absolute shitload of knowledge producing games, both internally, externally, so we had a really good foundation of production knowledge. So that carried forward into the publishing side. So it was really useful. So we can, when we work with indies, we can offer a whole bunch of knowledge, a whole bunch of resources, a whole bunch of everything really that they might need. And that's it, really. So just slowly, no investment, just basically earn the money, spend the money, invest. To the point now we have, I think, 8 or 9 decent-sized productions in various stages of production. We've got almost a year and a half of future pipeline mapped out. We're still small, we're 26 people, but we had to work hard and hustle and look after each other and the people around us to get to where we are today. But we also had to work hard. So we every element of publishing, every element from obviously the accounts and the business side and then the royalty reporting, but also relations with format holders and all the business opportunities, biz dev opportunities, and just doing things right. So that's kind of the wired way, really.
So I had no idea you were involved with Cossacks. I remember that game because after Sudden Strike, I tried to get our agency to represent Cossacks because at the time, if I'm remembering correctly, the engine behind it had the capability to put more units on the screen than any RTS had ever done.
16,000, I think it was.
Yeah,
it was an insane amount.
Absolutely remember that game.
Yeah,
all right, brilliant. So let's talk about Safe in Our World. That's the charity that you set up for something that I believe is absolutely fundamental and needs to be talked about and needs to be worked on more in this industry. And that's mental health of our compatriots, the rest of us in this industry.
Yes. Well, throughout this journey, throughout the whole kind of the last however many years, 20 odd years, but 7 years ago, we're in now 2017. Now, most people get involved in charities for maybe personal reasons, something that's affected someone or it's affected yourself or something, or you've seen something that you feel really strongly about. In 2017, kind of a kind of strange sequence of events happened to people out wide, myself, people out wide, and the wider circle. A lot of people tried to kill themselves, and in some cases it worked, in some cases it didn't, and people had breakdowns, and it was just a really bad year when a series of catastrophes happened, personal mental health related catastrophes happened. It also was coincidentally the time when we signed a game called The Town of Light, which it was based in an Italian asylum, in a place called Volterra in Italy. And we'd been to the place, and it was a psychiatric hospital that, had it been open today, even people from my own family would even actually still be in there. So it was a horrible place where horrible things happened. It's shut down now, but everything was drawn, towards this kind of thing of mental health, and we kind of working on a game that was centered around it, and lots of personal tragedies. We just kind of felt we needed to do something. So we hatched the idea. We gave some money to a mental health charity first, which was okay, but wasn't really satisfying, and we wanted to do more. So we set about building Safe in Our World, and that was in 2017. We started fleshing it out, going to charities commission and fleshing out what we wanted to do. And because we are marketing people, PR people, but we're also based in this industry, and can we talk to who can we talk to? We can talk to we know how to talk to gamers. We know how to talk to industry people. Okay, and we've got this subject of mental health, which is a problem in every sector within the industry, and as well as every sector sort of publicly. But we can't go to the whole world, but we know how to communicate to gamers and industry people. So why don't we just focus our efforts and building a charity just 100% dedicated to gamers and industry people? So that was our mission. And it took us about 2 years to flesh it out in terms of policies and direction and kind of what we wanted to achieve. Destigmatizing the conversation around mental health, getting people to understand and recognize other people who've got mental health problems, bringing in policies into sort of workplace so that there are policies that companies can adopt, lobbying governments, doing research, just really raising the awareness and making sure that mental health as a subject is talked about in a normal way, because and not that people should be scared of saying, oh, I've got this problem or that problem. That people should just be really open. You've got a broken leg, you've got a headache, people say it. You've got a problem with your mental health, you should be able to say it without any discrimination. So that was our mission. And we slowly built the team of trustees and people as supporters, and built websites, and just basically without a dime, just a lot of effort. And every single show I was going to, I was doing my Wired chat, and at the end of it, safe in the world. So basically lobbying people from all over the world to be involved. And on the 10th of October 2019, we launched, and it just blew up. I mean, in terms of, it was obviously something that was needed because people resonated with it. People have wanted to help. People have sought help, and they've gone to the website. We've got lots of resources from just signposting to if you've got a problem, you go to the website. Within 1 or 2 clicks, it'll give you a phone number in whichever country you're in to try and get help. So there's a whole bunch of practical solutions and help for people, from gamers or anyone really. And also we wanted to try and bring key people from the industry and get them to tell their story. So we call them hero stories. But so there's a whole bunch of kind of known, semi-known people that have outpoured their story, their mental health journey, for others to read and hopefully be inspired by. But really, our work we've only just scratched the surface. I mean, now there's a team of people that work full time. So the charity has a charity director, Sarah, and the team, Rosie and Sky and others. It's an amazing team. And we've got some great initiatives, and we've got a wonderful bunch of trustees, and 150 companies signed up to Level Up, which is the program to try and put policies within your company. So you could be a small company, you could be a large company, but there's a set of policies that you can adopt and resources available for you to bring into your company. So, but we've only just scratched the surface. I mean, it's still all self-funded, still organic. Every bit of effort we do is kind of, we put it out there for free. We run training courses that we give away for free. Everything so far is that magic price point of free, because at the moment we're trying to help people. But it obviously does need support. It needs continuous people to chip in, whether it's do streams or bits of fundraising, or just be part of the conversation. But I feel that we've helped. I mean, we've probably had, I think, 200,000 to 300,000 people just look at the help pages. So that in itself is a sign that we've potentially helped 200,000 to 300,000 people just there. The Safe in the World message has gone out to literally millions of people all over the world. And in a short space of time, it's become, I think, probably the video games mental health charity, globally. So it was a much needed charity for a much needed topic.
So, and I agree wholeheartedly. I've had I think you and I talked in Italy about my own issues with mental health at various points in my industry, which probably, also segue straight into my cynicism for a lot of the industry as well. But that could just be from doing this for 20 some years. What is the most common issue you see regarding mental health in the industry?
Blimey. I mean, good question. It varies. Obviously, things like anxiety. There's depression. There's weird things, not weird things. Imposter syndrome is a big thing. Obviously, things like the stress and the burnout. So, I guess anxiety, depression, weirdly, imposter syndrome, and burnout. Those are kind of the 4 things that are regular topics. We also have quite a few, people from sort of diverse backgrounds. They're kind of proportionally kind of a little bit more delicate and a little bit more, chances of them suffering a little bit more. So yeah, I mean, it's those areas. But these are kind of things that can be dealt with quite low hanging fruit, right? They can be dealt with through talking and bit counselling and everything else. Obviously, there is a whole raft of mental health issues that need medicine and treatment and long term counselling and potentially hospitalisation. But there's a whole load of things that can be helped just through conversation and the right sort of resources made available to people.
Now, are there, and this kind of goes along with my usual assertion that our industry is so different than everything else. Are there therapists or counselors that you all know that are specialized in the issues that we see in this industry?
Not really, no. I mean, there should be, but I mean, we're in a high pressure creative business. So if so if you look at developers who are under pressure, I mean, I think crunch used to be a big problem, is less of a problem than it was maybe 10 years ago. Obviously, it's still a problem, but there's no one that comes in. I mean, we have one or two specialists, but it's not like there's a whole sort of army full of people but there should be perhaps. But I think the problems are generic. If you're under pressure, or if you have burnout is real. So the same issues of burnout that apply to an accountant potentially can apply to someone in our industry. It's just so it's the same sort of treatment. Obviously, gamers and people like community managers, they're at the front facing. They're sort of the coal face, so to speak, of communities, and they have to deal with all the toxicity and all those.
God, yeah.
So we've created a course, mental health training course specifically aimed at community managers, which we did for free. We had, I think, 350, 400 people join and take the course just to try and arm them with enough protection for themselves as much as being able to deal with people in the community. But yeah, I mean, there should be more resources. We're working on it. But the danger of a charity like ours to offer actual clinical solutions is that you move into a different realm, and there's a whole bunch of legals and whatever liabilities that come with it. So we're not quite at that stage where we can do that. But there are quite a few things that we do in terms of training courses, mental health courses, courses on burnout, lots of talks, a lot of resources. Like I said, to try and catch the not so the serious things, but maybe not the stuff that needs like medical, like pills or anything, that type of treatment.
And someone on Discord noted, adding in isolation as well, particularly among folks in various underrepresented groups. And that's become a big issue since COVID, because of course, during COVID, we were all isolated for, various reasons. Are there any tips, guides on how to deal with isolationism in general? But I mean, so from the studio runner, from the CEO side, how to evaluate the mental health and make sure everybody is healthy on that side when you're not in an office every day. You're dealing with folks all around the world that you don't necessarily see.
Yeah. I mean, it's a valid issue. During COVID, obviously, the charity just started, and then 6 months later, COVID happened. So we had to put in lots of resources to try and deal with this whole transition of people working from home and trying to deal with people's mental health. So there are guides on the website, from a personal point of view, from a one-to-one point of view. But in terms of a company policy, someone has to be trained mental health. There should be in every company one or two people, depending on the size of the company, who is trained in mental health awareness and has had some sort of mental health training. There are signs. Just you're talking to someone in a we're having a conversation here, right? And I switch off my video, so that's a sign that I don't want you to see my face. Why? There's a whole bunch of different signs that someone who's observant enough should be able to see and pick up on. And then obviously it's down to the company to have some sort of awareness and some sort of policy to try and help.
No, that's fantastic. And what I'll have Ash reach out and we'll get some links to those resources and we'll put them in
Fantastic.
our newsletter next week as it goes out. If y'all got anybody out there listening to Discord, on the YouTube, Twitch, LinkedIn, wherever you are, if you've got questions about mental health in our industry, pop them in chat. We're also here to talk about indie publishing.
Yes.
So if anybody out there did not get a chance to ask a question to Joshua last week, which I doubt seriously, given how many questions that we had, pop it in there. But you're like me, you go to a lot of these industry events, the small ones, the bigger ones, the Gamescoms. What is the biggest mistake that you see indie devs doing when they pitch you a game?
Okay. Blimey. Not being ready, not being prepared. I mean, the deck needs to be, there's no perfect deck, right? But you need to be able to explain your game and it needs to be clear. So I think, I don't know. That's a good question. I mean, you also got to assess how long you've got on a show, and you've got to assess the show. You go to a Gamescom, you've got 20 minutes. It's really noisy. Really, do you have time to pitch your game properly? I think you've got time to bond with the biz dev person and do a follow up. So I think maybe in fact, let me scale this back. That I think that going all in and just splurting your pitch out at the wrong time and you've got one chance, I think is probably the worst thing to do. You go to a show, you build a relationship, unless you get an hour off-site meeting with someone where you have the time. But if you've got 20-minute, 30-minute slots, you need to try and connect with the biz dev and ask questions, because, is this the right publisher for you? Are you the right developer for the publisher? Otherwise it's not even worth following up. So I think, developers kind of come and they splurge and they don't actually just kind of hold back and just try to connect and get a conversation going and have and find out about each other. I think that there's more use in that in 20 minutes than trying to pitch your game.
Thank you. I have said that in the past, and I thought I might be the only ones doing that, but it is. I mean, I saw 50, 75, maybe close to 100 games the other week. I have this notebook, like literally right here, full of stuff that's how I remember what I saw. But the people that you connect with, that's a much better indication. We've got actually really good questions coming in on the mental health side too. So Jonathan on LinkedIn says, he released his first indie game and experienced the first truly harsh review of something I put a lot of my personal time and money and energy into. Do you have any recommendations for not connecting your self-worth to a review or a negative review?
Yeah, I mean, if you put my Wired hat would make me so angry that I'd want to take a baseball bat to the reviewer. But my mental health.
But we're not allowed to do that, Lee.
No, but you put in 3 or 4 years, and then someone who doesn't actually know your game, hasn't played it properly, is the wrong reviewer from the wrong website. Trashes your game. I mean, come on. You know what? You just have to have a thick skin because, if you are getting reviews, you're probably going to get 30, 40, 50, 60 reviews. Some are going to be good, some are going to be bad, and you have to kind of compartmentalize the bad ones. Sometimes there might be something useful in there, though. I mean, you have to, after you've done the baseball bat thing, you have to kind of just have a rational moment where you think, is there anything of note in this? But no, I mean, but it's a fact of life. You're putting yourself out there, so you are going to be criticized. So you have to build a resistance to it, or just completely just not care. But it's a tough one.
When I first started, back in a previous life of mine, when I was even doing a bit of design but production on these games, I quickly got to the point where I was just like, I don't read the fucking reviews.
Yeah,
it's just like I don't even want to know because. At the time we were doing hidden object games and it didn't matter what the quality was, what the difficulty was. We would get half the review saying it was too easy, it should be aimed at kids, and half the review saying it's ridiculously hard and they can't believe the developers and they obviously suck. And so Yeah, I just finally said, you know what? I'm not reading the reviews anymore. If it sells well, I'll know people like it. If it doesn't, then we'll analyze it. But yeah, that thick skin thing is one that it's difficult, but you have to.
It does come eventually, though. I mean, if whoever's asked the question, Jonathan, if it's your first game, okay, it's going to hurt. But 10 games down, or however long down the line, you become a bit more sort of, you can deal with things a lot better.
And then you can go to Amazon and buy one of those heavy bags from boxing training and get a baseball bat out of it.
It kind of works. You should try.
All right. And from Fingers on the Moon from YouTube, would love to hear more about the specifics when dealing with imposter syndrome. I've been coding for over 20 years and I still get that.
Yeah. I mean, everyone gets imposter syndrome. Whether it's you go to your first job, are you good enough? Are you good? I know you're saying about 20 years down the line and you're still getting it, but in a way, you need to. I mean, I'm not a psychiatrist, right? So I'm not going to give you a clinical answer. I'm going to just give you my opinion. But sometimes you need to. There's a way of converting the kind of the being scared or just the anxiety into the adrenaline side, because it's just adrenaline kicking in. It's just whether it goes the good way or the bad way. So you need to try and frame it differently. But I think the reassuring thing is every person, I think, in the world will have imposter syndrome at some point. They're starting a new job, they're going out with someone new, they're in a new group, that they're trying something new. Everyone will get it at some point. So you're not alone on that side. The recurring thing, I mean, I don't know. I can't answer that. But I think the comfort is in the fact that a lot of people, you're not alone on this.
Yeah, I mean, 25 years in, when I go and give a lecture at a conference and I look up there and there's people in there that are older than I am, I still look out there and go, why the hell are you listening to me? That's, I do my one little thing. And yeah, I think I do it pretty well, but not to the level of executives should be coming to me. But it's still, when you and I first started in this industry, that was not a word.
No.
It was just called nervous.
Yeah.
And
the conversation around it has opened up. I mean, so in a way, it's good. So the people can be more open, and it's more refined what the issues are. But yeah, it's everyone gets it. Everyone gets it. Even me coming before on this, I was getting a few jitters. I mean, it's just I think a little bit natural, and it's just a case of harnessing it to try and turn it into a positive.
The one thing that I always keep in the back of my mind, professionally, personally, when I get to that space, is that I'm not the only one dealing with this. There's, none of us live on such a unicorn island that we're having something going on that is only affecting us. Yeah. And so this is where that conversation comes in. Talk about it with somebody, let you know. But that's the biggest thing, I would say too, is that you're not alone. I mean, this happens to all of us. It's just a matter of finding your way of working through it, or just jumping off the deep end and figuring out how to swim, which is perfectly fine.
I mean, there are techniques. I mean, you probably, I mean, you can do it that way as well. That kind of works. But there are techniques.
I didn't say it was the best answer. I just said,
it works. It works. But there are techniques you can learn to try and sort of deal with either anxiety before a situation, and the deep breathing and various other sort of things. So there are kind of some things that you can teach yourself to try and prepare yourself for situations.
All right, we got one from Nunsuck Master on the publishing side. For publishers asking about trailers in a pitch, do publishers only look at the trailer before playing the game to decide whether it's worth taking the project on? I feel like this is happening to me.
Everyone likes eye candy. You've got a few seconds to catch someone's attention. Going back to the earlier question, or the point about when you meet someone for the first time, if you're in a position where you have 20 minutes, you can't go deep into a project. You just, it's not the environment. So you need to show something visual whilst you talk. I mean, that's just the best way of doing a pitch. You have a trailer or some gameplay or something, and you're talking, and you're just emphasizing the points to get them excited. That's what you need in that moment. Do publishers just look at, so if it's just for a pitch point of view, that's what you need. You do need something visual. Sorry, but you do. In terms of the deeper pitch, when someone's taking something back to evaluate, the scout or the evaluation team, no, they'll be playing the game. But even here we've got 20 odd people, and sometimes in our process is that we have the evaluation team look at it, and then there's the coders that play, or with people that play it. Then it goes back to the kind of publishing team, and then once we say that we're going to take a game further, we open it up to the team, and everyone has a vote. So we've got 20 odd people that have a few moments just to say yes or no. So a trailer, to be honest, is needed. So yes, trailers are important. No, not all good scouts teams will just look at a trailer, but it will get you. It just raises the interest level, and breaks down some really sort of low barriers that need to be broken.
Yep, I agree. It's not the only thing, but it is, especially when you're coming back from a show like Gamescom and you've got to show your team 50, 60 games that you saw. It's like, here, take a look at this gameplay trailer. It does get to be, a bit of a barometer. So what, aside from being prepared, when the developer's coming to one of these meetings and they only have 20 minutes, how much emphasis should they put on that deck, or should they be trying to show a quick demo, or what's the biggest priority in that meeting?
Getting the demos, I wouldn't bother. I would focus with being able to communicate what type of game it is without referencing 1,000 or 2 or 3 other. The pitches that make me glaze over is when someone says it's a game like this and like this and like this. Well, what is it? You've just picked all these famous games and you've got no identity of your own. So you need to be able to explain your game and what's the USP of your game, or what's exciting about your game in your own words, and be original. That's important. It is important to show something nice because you've only got a few minutes. And if you are looking for a deal, ask, we're looking for a publishing deal. Be realistic. Don't say you want 2 million when you only need 500,000. Who's your team? Just, I've got so-and-so from, who coded this and he's part of the team, or, we've got this great sort of bit of tech, or just some things that are going to, if they exist, or some gameplay innovation that you might have that's different. The danger is at the moment, there's a lot of too many games that are grouped together, too many Metroidvanias or too many Souls-likes, or too many, there's too many games that's just circled around too many genres. Don't be scared to be original, but just make sure you communicate that originality.
That comes to a really good point, because a lot of times we see publishers like, we want something original, and then they just release like Madden 2023. It's like, that's not. I mean, we're as an industry, we're accustomed to not exactly seeing a lot of original ideas come out of the AAA studios.
No,
but indie publishers are different. So where do you walk that line between it's basically just another Metroidvania and something that is so unique that it's hard for the publisher to pull comps on it?
Yeah, I mean, I think that boils down to the publisher you're talking to, because there are some publishers that take on innovation, right? And there's some publishers that don't, and indie publishers, that is. So I think you need to know who you're talking to. I think this goes back a little bit about your 20-minute meeting. Be prepared is also a really good thing. Who are you meeting? What, are you, what games do they like? Do they like innovative games? Are you going to Do they like music games? Do they like hack and slashes? I mean, what do they like? So I think you need to. There are publishers out there who, I mean, Raw Fury. Without sort of name dropping, there's a few. I don't want to sort of single them out, but I know they, in a conversation even last night, Johan was talking about his super innovative games that he's got hidden away. They're going to be coming out. So there are people that champion innovation. You just need to know who they are. If there's an indie publisher that just does, I don't know, just sort of Me Too sort of stuff, then don't talk to them. But having said that, it is a risk being too innovative. But then how do you mitigate that risk? Maybe just by being smart with the budget, or, just not asking for too much whilst being innovative and whilst being too risky. Or maybe be prepared with some community kind of vibes, that you've done a tweet and you've got, like, I don't know, 10,000 people that liked it. I mean, bring some meat to the table if you've got something original.
This is another really good one, and it's something that I try to impart on developers at every conference, because if you ask at the end of the conference, how did it go? It's like, awesome. Everybody loved my game. We know that's not exactly the case all the time. So James on YouTube, it says, after pitching to a multitude of publishers at Gamescom, my head was a mess. What are some tips for interpreting the results of publisher meetings, i.e. figuring out if they are actually interested or if they're just politely saying no in different words?
I mean, that's a really good question. I would interpret all meetings to be no's, and then you have to follow up and try and get the yeses. Do it the reverse way around. If you think you've had 10 good meetings, they probably they weren't. I mean, unless you've got something amazing, but you can tell that when you are having the meeting, you should be able to gauge by the person's reaction whether there's genuine excitement or whether they're going through the motions. But also bear in mind that these, Jay, as you said, you saw 57, I think you said. That's 57 games. I mean, at some point you've got game blindness. So you have to follow up, so forget what you saw. I mean, it's two things. Just take it that, that you haven't got a deal at Gamescom, but you have to follow up. And it's the follow-ups where you're going to get the serious replies and the serious yes or no's, and then you'll know from that the level of interest.
I agree. Your assumption has to be that there's not going to be a deal that comes out of it. But I will tell you this, James. Given how many people are at Gamescom, the good publishers are not going to be taking meetings just for meeting's sake. None of us want to do that. I do it on the scouting side. It's like, if I'm taking a meeting with you, there is at least a little bit of interest in there. Otherwise, there were another 1,000 developers that I could have met with and decided not to. But yeah, you at the end of a conference, you just basically have to assume nobody liked it and then follow up. And that's when you're going to get, when people ask me, they're like, how was Gamescom? I look at them and say, ask me in 2 weeks. Don't ask me now, because in 2 weeks, I'll know what it's like. And it's not just games. It's like, I talk to publishers like Leo all the time, and I'm like, hey, we do these great audits and scouting stuff. Are you interested? And Leo's like, oh yeah. And then, 3 months later.
Yeah. So, but to be fair, just to add to this, I was honest and said we do have kind of some resources.
But the point is, it's not just developers. It's all of us. You're getting a chance to hang out with the other folks in the industry, be among your peers, and everybody's happy to see each other. And so you get a lot of positivity coming out of it. You just can't bank on every single meeting closing a deal. If so, we would all be much richer than we are right now. But yes, but
Jay, you said something. I mean, everyone does prepare for the meetings. So anyone that's booked a meeting has done research. So you're already past that stage. Otherwise, you would have been discarded. So that is a positive. And then it's up to the follow-up. It's how you connect, and then it's up to the follow-up.
Exactly. So next one from the Discord. Is it worth pitching with any sort of marketing approach in mind, like market data, etc.?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, not that you're doing a publisher's job for them, but it shows that you understand your game. It shows that you know how big your audience is. I mean, any information like that is gold, and it elevates you in terms of your knowledge and the conversation you will have with a publisher. So, and it also is good for you because you'll know if there is a market and how big the market is and who the market is. So, yeah, super important to know market data. But don't be blinded by all these. I've got to say, there's a caveat. There's all these tools now that predict how your game's going to do and predict your number of wish lists and predict all sorts of prediction tools. Take them with a tiny pinch of salt because, just know who your audience is and how to access them. But for the predictions side, that's a whole level of uncertainty, which I won't broach now, but just take it with a pinch of salt.
And again, if we were all that great at predictions, every single one of our games would be a success.
Right.
But they're not always. And yeah, I agree. It's one of those things that don't look at it in terms of you're educating the publisher on what the market's doing, but it's more of the fact that you understand what your market is. I get excited when I see a pitch deck and a developer has got marketing personas in there, and I'm like, oh, they did their homework. They actually understand this part. That's fantastic. Next one from YouTube from one of your alumni. Having done the Safe in Our World community manager training, how can I give back and donate/raise money?
Those are the sort of questions I love, and those are the sort of things I love to hear. So thank you. There are different ways. I mean, you can obviously just donate, go to the website and donate, or you can fundraise. You can do a little stream to fundraise. You can take part in any of the themed fundraising things that are happening. I think we're going to announce one on Monday. It's called Press Pause, and it's going to be running at the end of October. Take part, or just do your own fundraising. Just have a bit of fun and I don't know, just get a bunch of people and do a game-based charity push. But yeah, I mean, all the work that we do and all the courses that we do and everything that we do, to be honest, is free. So any donations and any spreading of the word is super helpful and super appreciated.
All right. So I'm a developer. I went to Gamescom, pitched game, 10, 20, 30 different people. I start following up and there's not a lot of traction. What do I do? What's my next step?
Follow up again. I mean, just. I mean, it's obviously if you're talking about the process of following up on emails, I get 300, 400, 500 emails a day, and sometimes they fall through the cracks, right? So, and even the best will in the world are wanting to follow up. Sometimes you put it aside and the other, so in a week's time, you've got 2,000 other things that have just bumped it out of the way. There is nothing wrong with doing a follow-up. So that's number one. And doing another follow-up. So that you're allowed to follow up, and people on our side don't take offense. It's sometimes a good thing that we actually get a reminder. So don't think it's a bad thing. I think if you haven't heard from literally every single publisher, maybe you just need to look at your pitch. I'm not saying it's you, but maybe you should get like a third party just to take a look at what you're sending. There are lots of groups in the industry that you can sort of tap into and say, hey, can you just give this a quick look? And and it's always good to get feedback. Yeah, I'd stick to those. I mean, you need some feedback somehow, whether it's through your Twitter, through your community, for a friend, through an industry friend or something. But you need to get some feedback. If you're not hearing anything, it could be that there's just too many replies, or maybe just you have to rethink. Is your presentation catchy? Is it catching the eye? Is your delivery mechanism sort of the right way, coming through the right way?
And as a reminder for folks out there, we do pitch deck reviews free on the Discord server every Thursday. And talking to Pebs this morning, I think we're going to have to increase the number of those because we're starting to get a backlog. But you can always come in, and even if you're not in your pitch wasn't selected that day, you can tune into the channel, listen in, watch something that they're talking about applies to your deck, or you can post your deck in, the publishing channel. And a lot of times, many of us will sit down there and flip through it and give you some quick feedback as well. But, on the follow-up side, I can say with near certainty, I have probably gotten more deals done in my career off the second or third follow-up than I did on the initial one. And, sometimes it takes people pinging me once or twice too to get feedback on things. But yes, I agree wholeheartedly. What are the questions that the developers need to be asking you when you sit down with a meeting with an indie team?
I mean, there's no harm actually during the meeting say, is this the type of game that you like? Is this the type of game? I mean, you should have done your research with this type of game that they would sign. But is there any direct feedback? Is there any initial feedback? What's the process? How long? Next steps. So just be clear and say, look, so what are the next steps? I'm going to send you the build, and you're going to evaluate it. How long's your evaluation process? What's your internal process? I mean, there's no, like I said, it's a two-way thing. I'm not saying, you should question yourselves like some sort of police kind of sort of situation, but you should engage in a conversation publishers will be finding out about the developer needs to find out about the publisher in a mutual sort of kind of way. So find out about the next steps, process, and also just some direct questions. Look, I've quoted a budget of, I don't know, $500,000. Is this within your wheelhouse? Is this within your range? Is this what you're looking for? And also, I think something that's really important, which I didn't get asked once at Gamescom, what's your bandwidth like at the moment? Because, you're pitching a game that's going to come out in 6 months or 9 months or 12 months, but the publisher probably has got the next 12 months covered, or maybe even the next 18 months covered. So, ask questions. You shouldn't be shy to ask genuine questions that are important to you.
You need to be interviewing that publisher as much as they're interviewing you.
Yeah.
So across the board. And I had a question and it just escaped my mind. But if you're out there, and we've got about a little less than 10 minutes left, if you've got any questions on mental health in the industry or publishing, then pop them in chat and let's go from there. So how long are you seeing? It's always interesting to see how long it takes to get a publishing deal done right now. From the time that the developer sends you a demo that you can actually properly evaluate to the time that ink is on the paper.
It could take 2 weeks. It could take 6 months. There is process. For some publishers have a strict process. We're kind of a bit more touchy-feely and, kind of run with things at our own pace. Sometimes it's quick, sometimes it's slow. But to be honest, if a publisher really likes something, and this is going on at the moment, there's some really fast things happening here internally. They can happen really quickly. So I think this goes down to the question before. Just find out what the process is. If there's a green light committee, how many committees in between that? Is there a period? Is there I mean, we've probably got, I don't know, 100 games on queue to be evaluated. We're not going to look at all of those 100, but I push one or two up to the top of the queue because I can, and that's the reality of life. So you need to know what the process is, and this is also why it's good to connect well with the person you're talking to, because that will get you ahead of that 100 game queue. But yeah, games you can agree terms. It's also opportunity, right? Like I said, we got 18 months worth of catalog already, sort of games already mapped out. So, but we are looking for after that. And so if we find something that we like and it fits, everything works, it can be really quick. When there's lots of negotiating backwards and forwards and you're having to shape, then it kind of delays. Or if a publisher's not 100% convinced that, well, there's a problem with the team, that sometimes delays things. You know, you might really be convinced that the game's magnificent, but you're not quite sure about the team. So there'll be lots of questions about the team and a bit of due diligence. Should be a bit of due diligence. Or the other way around, you're convinced about the team, but you're not convinced about the game. But you think there's something there. Then that'll take a little bit of time. But I've done deals in 2 weeks. I've done deals in 6 months. So there is that's hard to say in terms of a fixed timeline. But again, this is where you have to ask questions to find out what the publisher, what the public, how much bandwidth there is, and what's their process.
And to be clear, if a deal is going to happen in 2 weeks, you're going to know it's going to happen in 2 weeks. Do not go in assuming that you're going to do a deal in 2 weeks. You know about those deals very, very, very quickly.
Yeah. I mean, they're few and far between, but they occasionally
it can happen.
It can happen, yeah.
So how much does the publisher pitch advice apply to reaching out to platforms?
I say it's the same. I mean, the platforms need to see, they need to be excited about your game. So like you're researching a publisher where they've got the right bandwidth and it's the right type of game for the publisher. Is this the right type of game for a platform? Are you pitching, is this a Sony game, or is this a Nintendo game, or is this an Xbox game, right? So would this look good on PlayStation or on Game Pass? How many types of games like this do they have? Is it a genre that they're interested in? Are you giving yourself enough time? Because if you pitch a game with 3 months to go, to anybody, whether it's a publisher or a platform holder, you've got no chance. You need to be pitching sort of 12 to 18 months prior to launch. So give yourself enough time, make it sexy. If there are features that are platform specific, talk about them, and then talk about whether you're thinking of platform exclusivity, or you need to make it sexy for them, right? So it's the same as publishing, but just a tiny bit tailored towards a platform. But it's the same principles: deck, video, sexy one-liner, and as many features that kind of are related to their system as possible.
Leo, thank you so much. This has been fantastic, and we're gonna hit our time mark this time.
Okay, great. Nice.
We will absolutely get some of that info. Pez is going to reach out. We're going to put updates about the promotion and all this stuff going on with Safe in Our World in our next newsletter. And then, because I love that, I'm so happy to know that exists now. And then good luck with all of your remaining Gamescom follow-ups. And
yes, and likewise. And likewise, Jay. All right, thanks for the opportunity for letting me speak, man.
Mr. Z, thank you so much. Mate. Thank you for. And so I just want to say thank you so much for coming on here. And remember, everybody, September 26th and 27th, powered by Tripwire Presents. That's the Indie Game Business Sessions. This is going to be our 12th, 11th. Dang it. I forget.
Dog was barking and I muted. I think this is like our 14th or 15th.
Okay. Well,
I don't know.
Way more. Yeah. So you want to sign up for that? IndieGame.business is a lot. And if you, of course, you're looking to expand your professional network, so jump into our amazing Discord, discord.gg/IndieGameBusiness. And we've got Indie Game Business merch. Just go to streamlabs.com/IndieGameBusiness/merch. And pick up that. You want an awesome shirt that has an IGB logo on it, right? Or a hat or whatever other creative thing that Pebs has put on there. A water bottle, whatever. It's awesome. So, yes, thank you so much. And we'll see you next week. We've got a bunch of stuff lined up before the man. I just scheduled something an IGB podcast for December 1st.
Holy crap.
We've got.
This is what happens when you have a good team, that puts this together for me. Before we go, Leo, you did have one late comment coming in. Craig Albeck wants to congratulate you on keeping the swear count under control.
Yeah, I did well. I did well. People were taking bets how much I was going to swear. So, yeah, we done good.
There was a pool. There was a pool at Wired, right?
Yeah.
Who won the pool?
Yeah, I don't know. I'll find out soon.
That's awesome. Thank you so
much. All right,
much.
everybody.
Cool. All right. Cheers, gents. All right. Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, we should be clear. I couldn't find the